It's Thursday, which means it's Linux Day here on the Lunduke Show, and I'm joined by the ever insatiable Matt the Matthew Hartley. That's right, his nickname is a longer, more real version of his first name with the in front of it. This episode is brought to you in part by Purism, who makes Linuxy powered laptops, free software powered laptops, with an OS certified by the Free Software Foundation. That's the second point, with hardware kill switches. So if you're like me and have a tinfoil hat and like free software, they're the best in the world. Go check them out. They're awesome. PURI.SM. All right. Again, I'm Brian Lunduke. That guy over there. This way is Matt the Matthew Hartley. Matt, how have you been, man? How's the week been treating you?
Pretty good. I got a little drinkage.
It's awesome. What's in there right now? Is it just water?
It's just water, yeah. But it's like I get this at a drive-in. I'm really a big fan of. It's awesome, and it's a drive-in that actually has like modern projectors. So it's all modern stuff. But most importantly, they get my drink size. Oh yeah, dude! You buy it for like I think it's like $16 or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And then it's like super cheap refills.
That's the way to go, man.
And their concession stand, they have pizza pagers. I mean, so you can like everything about it is fantastic. Retro arcade, go-karts. I just want to move in there. Honestly, I really do.
That's amazing. I miss drive-ins, old school drive-ins, just like you described with their old real arcades and the
Next
pizza.
Time you're in Washington, we got to drag you to a Carver.
I'm in. I'm friggin' in. I'm totally in. All right. You ready for this? For those of you who are new, and there's a lot of new people here, just growing like crazy lately. We take your questions and then we answer them, or at least we pretend to. We have no actual qualifications. Matt, are you qualified in any way, shape, or form to do this? Me neither.
I am qualified to drink water. And that's about it.
I have a little bit of Pepsi, but it's Pepsi with real sugar. So, and the real is in cursive. It's a pseudo cursive. Yeah.
Right.
That makes it fancy. All right, let's get on to the questions. The first question is probably the most important and intense question we're going to take today. And that comes from Robert, who says, "Hello, Brian and Matthew. I use Arch. Why aren't you using Arch? Also, I'm a vegan." Robert. So thank you, Robert, for letting us know that. I do love that Arch users have that stigma where they are the vegans of the technology world, where they have to tell you that they are an Arch user. And I love it when an Arch user plays into that. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to own this and just tell everybody. I feel like there should be just shirts that just say, ask me about Arch.
Seriously.
Yeah,
right. It's like they're getting pulled over to get a ticket and they look at the cop and they're like, do you know why you know I pulled you over? It's because I use Arch.
It's because I use Arch. You're discriminating against me for being an Arch user, aren't you?
Seriously, it could be a thing.
To answer your question, I don't use Arch because I'm not an Arch user. It's kind of like the same reason I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegan because I eat meat. Like there's not like this big intense like thing around it. Like I didn't sit down one day and say, why am I going to or not going to be a vegan? I just eat meat, so I just can't be a vegan. I'm not an Arch user because I just don't use Arch. Like it's that sort of a thing. There's nothing I can do about it, buddy. Matt, why don't you use Arch?
Boy. So I actually used Arch for a little while, and then I realized that I actually enjoyed it. But the problem was it really kind of sucks you in. It's like any hands-on distro where you're always waiting for the updates. You're kind of excited at first. Sometimes you're annoyed. Sometimes you're excited. Depends where you're at. Right. But it really, I started to realize I hadn't showered in 4 days, and I started to get kind of ripe. And I'd seen my wife in like a week. So I thought, it might be time to get an operating system that perhaps is a little more little less exciting or a little less rambunctious, I guess. You know? I don't need bleeding edge. So for me,
I don't need bleeding edge.
Yeah, just get me something very long-term, stable, and I'm good because you know what? I don't need to have that level of control.
Man, you put so much more thought into this than I did.
Totally pulled that out of my backside. But
I literally don't use Arch because I don't use Arch. That is that is the full-on reason for it. Also, now I really want a hot dog, like a real beef hot dog, not like a vegan field dog or whatever the heck.
Right. And that drive-in, man, I'm telling you, they will hook you up on one. It's like the size of your forearm. You just beat people with it. It's freaking great. I can't eat the bread because of the gluten thing, but I just pull it out and when I'm done playing with it, I just eat it. It's awesome.
You know why You know why I don't avoid glutens? Because
You
I don't
allergy
think about it because I
connection?
eat bread. That's why. It's the same thing with the arch thing. I just do what I'm
Yeah,
doing, and then I'm
you're
not
lucky.
doing the things that
Yeah,
I'm not doing, and then I just don't
yeah,
worry about it too much. It's
yeah.
fine. It's fine.
It
Tell your
sucks,
doctor next time you see your doctor, just tell him to do the Lunduk approach, where you just do
right?
whatever you're doing, and
That's
it'll
what
be
I did
fine.
for years. I actually told him years ago that he was full of crap. So,
Right?
and then I
Probably.
was like, "Oh, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard of," And so I kept doing it, kept doing it. He's like, "Do me a solid, just eliminate it for a week, and let's have another conversation."
Let's
All
see how you
right,
feel.
whatever.
Did you feel
It's
better?
like, wow, yes, I could once again take care of business in the number 2 capacity very successfully, and I was really excited about that. So yeah, that is as family
With
friendly
that,
as I could make that
with
possible.
that
So
said, let's move on to the next question. So there you go, Robert. I hope that helped. This one from Jerome. Greetings, Brian and Matt. Hope you have a nice Linuxy Friday. I will have a Linuxy Friday tomorrow. Love your show. I love my show too. I love your email. Self-hosting,
oh
he
yeah,
says, is one of the nicer solutions to free yourself from the big four. You know, those big 4 companies. But this can be technically difficult for Linux newcomers. What self-hosting oriented projects would you recommend? I discovered Unohost project and it's awesome. P.S. I received the first surprise t-shirt from the T-shirt of the Month Club. And that's all the nerdiest I love. Hugs and penguins from Paris, Jerome.
nice.
Yes, by the way, the t-shirts this month were awesome. If you guys aren't a part of the T-shirt of the Month Club, just go check it out on the Patreon page. Okay, but the question, what projects are good for self-hosting? All right, so for me, I'll just put out my answer right out of the bat. For me, it's all about the Nextcloud. I love Nextcloud, not just because it does the good file storage and sync. It's got really good built-in text editing tools and Office document editing tools that are not amazing, but pretty good. And they're good enough and they're free software enough that I can self-host them and use them to kind of collaborate with people. That's pretty rad. And it's pretty easy to get set up. In fact, you can find pre-made, ready to go images from most distros out there, whether you're running Ubuntu or OpenSUSE or Fedora or whatever, and you can get it up and rocking on just about any VPS or even self-hosted at home sort of solution. I run Nextcloud actually on a Raspberry Pi for a while. I'm not currently doing that, just on the client, not on the server, but I've got a server remotely that I have, and it runs fantastically well. I really can't recommend it enough. I don't do self-hosted email and such because that is just a nightmare. It is a nightmare of unmitigated proportions that no one should ever do unless you hate yourself. But that's what I run. I don't know if you've got any particular self-hosting things you like.
Boy, Nextcloud is definitely among them. Previous to that,
tight.
back in the old days, I was doing OwnCloud on a Pi as well. Same principle. Again,
OwnCloud's great.
definitely kind of taking your approach, but Nextcloud is definitely the go-to for now. And I think that running on a Pi makes a lot of sense. It's low powered. You can kind of tuck it out of the way. You can Velcro it to the back of your desk, stick it on your head, wear it like a hat, whatever you want to do. And it's
whatever you want to do. Definitely the back of the head thing.
Plug it and take it with you. Yeah, right. A little Velcro,
100%.
Pop it back there. I also think that media storage is a nice entrance way. So if you got a butt ton of DVDs, you're thinking, wow, I will never watch this because getting up and putting DVDs into drives is difficult. It is. Yeah. It's really overrated. But ripping those and putting them onto a drive, if you own them, hey, why not, right? So then having that media storage, you have MB, you have Plex, you have XBMC, if I can say it right, or whatever the hell, or Kodi or whatever the fancy.
Let's just call it the Xbox Media Center, like the old days.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Which is what it should be, because that's what it was called once.
That's what it was called.
Old and that's what it was called back in my day.
I'm old and crusty. That's what I call it.
Cool.
I feel the same way. Like I do that because for me, it's because I have kids. And if you give the kids a DVD or a Blu-ray, that thing is toast. Like literally 3 seconds later, it looks like a Wolverine went to town and made sweet, sweet love with it. It is just, they're not gonna last. So I like to just rip them. Even if I'm just ripping like a 720p version of it, whatever, and stick it somewhere. So I've got all the kids' cartoons and whatnot on my own server from the DVDs that I own anyway. Then I can take those, those are like my backup copy, put them off to the side, and then we just connect to it off the server. It works really well that way. And plus, then you can skip past all the DVD and Blu-ray menus and loading garbage that ends up taking like 4 or 5 minutes sometimes to get through them all. So this way, you just, boom, play them on any device. You're good to go at home. That's how it should be, you know? Like,
it is. Yeah.
When you buy like a Disney movie nowadays, you get the Blu-ray. And I think it's really cool that most of the times when you buy a Blu-ray, you get a DVD version in the same package.
Yeah.
I dig that. I think that's cool. But a lot of times they also have a code for getting the download version. But the download version is usually only playable like on a Windows or Mac desktop PC or on like some weird like one brand of television that no one has heard of before from Taiwan.
Or you got to do it through Voodoo or something like that, which...
Yeah, it's like
we do have that. You know, which,
it's a pain.
It's
a total pain.
It's not pleasant, and you're dependent on the restrictions in place, the DRM in place, the limitations. It's a hassle. You know,
it's funny. We'll go buy the Blu-rays, right? We'll go like buy, I don't know, Mulan or whatever. We'll go buy the Blu-ray, and it'll come with the DVD. I'll rip the DVD version instead of the Blu-ray version, just because it's easier. I'll get the 720p HD enough for the kids, and we'll have it. We only put like 1080p versions of these videos up for like, you know, it has to be a special movie. Like, I mean, we're talking like this has to be a blockbuster, amazing film. Like, it has to be like Thor Ragnarok or nothing.
Yes,
like, it has to be great.
Yeah. Right.
We really got off topic there, but Nextcloud. Nextcloud is the bee's knees. And Jerome, I hope you don't host your own email because it's horrible. It's the most
if you want to get your IP
experience in the
banned by
world.
various providers, please go ahead. But otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time. Don't do it.
You're gonna have a bad time.
Don't do it. Pay for a good service.
And from Jack, you and Matt tend to rail on System D. Thank you, Jack. We do. I'm glad you noticed. Just last week, Matt said that you can use cron to sync notes. And I quote, as long as it's not a System D timer. You did say something along those lines. I remember that.
And to correct it, I hate System D timers. I have no opinion on System D because I don't care. But System D timers.
You hate the timers. Yeah.
The timers are bad.
He continues, I get that System D doesn't follow the Unix philosophy of little parts that do one thing very well. Is that the only reason that the community doesn't like System D? If there are other reasons, what are they? Speaking for myself, I literally stood on stage, and this video has been viewed by 500,000 people by now, and railed about that exact one problem, that System D does not follow the Unix philosophy for like 20 minutes. Yeah. That's my reason. That's literally my only reason. Does it work? Yes, it works. Do I use System D timers? No, because they're made by Satan. Use a cron. Cron, man.
Right.
But like, System D works. My current system uses System D, right? It's a System D system. It's fine. It is functional. I wish it was a little bit more modular and Unixy because that's the type of thing I buy in for, but that's the whole thing. The only other reason people might not like System D, in my opinion, is that it's made by Leonard Pottering, who managed to screw up Pulse Audio pretty bad. Like, if you're mad because Pulse Audio was not working for like 3 years, it's Leonard's fault, and therefore you might hold a grudge like carrying it over to System D land. But nowadays, Pulse Audio and System D are both working pretty well, so it's mostly the Unixy thing. I don't know. Matt might disagree.
So for me personally, and I want to differentiate, System D timers are garbage. System D, no opinion. I haven't had a problem with it yet. I do understand the rationale of why people dislike it. I do. I completely get it. I just don't care because it hasn't affected me deeply.
Matt doesn't care.
Asterisk, I'm not in IT, so I'm not as invested in caring in that department as other people might be. If I was in IT, I would have some deep concerns about how integrated it is.
No, wait a minute, Matt. Let's be fair about this. If you had the slightest reason to care, you super would care because you are like me. You are like a grumpy old man on his porch. The moment you want to care a little bit, you care a ton.
The moment it breaks, I'm gonna rage quit. I mean, that's what's gonna happen. Yeah. See, I run very hot and cold. I'm like, I don't care. and I just Incredible Hulk out as soon as something doesn't work. Like I forget to plug in a headphone or something, I just freak. So that's usually how I operate with most things.
That's why I love you.
Just emotionally placid and empty, and then I just
volatile, man. You are a bag of old dynamite, is what you are. It is delightful. Yeah. There's a lot of people that just hate on System D. I think in part just to have something to hate on. Like I get grumpy about System D not following the Unixy style because I'm like, why is my init script more than an init script? That bugs me fundamentally on a philosophical level. But like, I don't have like the pure burning hatred for it that some people do. I just wish it were more Unixy. Some people, man, they get pissed about System D. And I think it's funny because System D is constantly expanding. And I used to joke about how it'll add office suites and everything else at some point. But that's only like half of a joke because really System D is like growing to be a whole replacement system, and more things become dependent on it, and that could be a real problem. And I guess I see why it gets people pissed off. I don't know. That's really it.
The real rub, I think, for most people is the fact that they're like, okay, you can have your System D, but keep it the hell out of my space. But that's not happening. It's actually being implemented on perhaps a distro they like using, and they're like, I didn't ask for this crap. And I think a little bit like Pulse Audio, same thing happened. It was kind of pushed on them. And I think regardless of your overall view of it, I think most people are fine with the thing as long as it's not shoved in their face. And I think System D was kind of shoveled at us a little faster than most people would really want.
No one likes the shovel.
No one likes the shovel.
No one likes the shoveling.
Shovel.
I concur. Everything Matt said is correct. Tice. Ooh, Tice is a good one. Greetings to the two most beautiful men I know. Cool. Greetings, Tice. Smart. I'm a science teacher at a high school, and we just replaced some old computers. The old computers, maybe 20 of them, are wiped and destroyed. What a waste! Yeah. For a few months, I have this idea of collecting these old but still modern computers, putting Linux on it, and giving it to people who can't afford a computer. I'm trying to give these ideas shape, but I already encounter some problems. For example, my school didn't want to give me these computers. They are scared the data will be restored and fall in the hands of evildoers. So Tice has a couple of questions to follow up from this. He asked actually a whole bunch of questions. I narrowed it down to two because I felt like these two were the core of it. The first one, how do I convince companies to give me computers for this cause? And the second is sudo dd if equals dev/random of equal dev/sda enough to securely wipe data off of a hard drive? Tice.
So the simple answer to this is, first of all, never convince an entity, a school, a business that you're going to take care of the data. That you're never going to win that argument. What you do is say, hey, look, if I have a company representative watch me remove the hard drives and hand that to your company representative, are we cool? If they're down with that, removes the data completely out of the equation. Then at that point, it's just, you're just going to have to get your own drives for it, which won't be that big a deal. And honestly, you're better off anyway because you're ending up with a fresh drive instead of some repurposed, aging, possible click of death. Clack, 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 clack. So, pop a couple. It gives you a little more flexibility there. So I think that's what I would do.
That's exactly right. Matt nailed it. So is the mechanism you mentioned of using DD to wipe out a drive enough? In theory, there's also a wide variety, at least for most purposes. There's a lot of other tools out there for really zeroing out drives and whatnot.
DoD level,
but Matt's totally right. Why? You're not going to have a whole lot of luck convincing them that you're going to be a good steward of annihilating the data, even if your mechanism for doing so is a simple software solution that every government on earth is like, yes, this is the most secure way. Just say, hey, I'll take the machines. Let's yank the drives out. You keep them, destroy them, burn them in a furnace from hell, whatever you want to do. And I'll take the other machines. And then what you do is then shop around to local computer companies, big computer companies, online ones like Newegg and whatnot, and say, what sort of super cheap low end drives would you be willing to donate to this sort of a cause? Like the $30 drives you can get nowadays. You can get some really cheap ones now.
Oh, seriously?
And then, you know, slap that computer company's sticker on the side of the case in exchange for them giving you the drive. They get a little bit of press for it, and the school gets to feel good because then the school district and whatever their company feels like, hey, they're donating to a cause. They can make a big deal about it, and you never had to convince them of nothing relating to the data. Matt's totally right. That's the way to do it. That's
exactly. And you're right on the drive cost. I mean, my PFSense box is running a $20 hard drive.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it is amazing, man. I used to have. I mean, I know this was a long ago in a place far away, but like, man, my old like 286 I used to have. I had a 40 meg MFM drive. It was one of those double tall boys that just grinded like crazy. It literally sounded like someone was grinding wheat in a giant pedestal every time it accessed data. And I swear that drive probably cost $500 or $600 new. And that was just that little 40 meg drive. But yeah, now you can get like a couple 100 gig drive for $20-$30. No problem. And it's fantastic. That's the way I'd go, Tice. That's your best bet, man. You might be able to convince the school that you could wipe stuff out, but
what happens is your first impression matters. As soon as you ask that and then change your mind later on and offer the counter of removing the drive, you've already asked the question and they're already burnt. Don't do it.
Right. Go in there with almost have like a PowerPoint slide, like showing them you remove the drive, take the drive, even the screws, they're yours. And then we'll find a new drive from somewhere else and put it in. And then no data can be on it. And then make a big little heart around it that says secure data or something.
And rainbows. Lots of rainbows.
Oh, lots of rainbows. Yes. School people love rainbows. So hope that helped, man. But it's a worthy cause. Best of luck, dude. A lot of local organizations around here and all over the big cities around the world work to try and do this sort of thing. And this is an approach that a lot of them take. So hopefully it helps you, man. Norman. Oh my gosh, Norman has a great question. But before I ask this question, I would like to say, Norman, I applaud your tenacity. This is the 5th or maybe 6th time you've emailed this question in because we get so many questions, we can't get to even a fraction of them. And Norman, I have not ignored you because I don't like the question. You just ran out of luck. But you're in today, my friend. Norman asks, I am a hardcore Microsoft Excel coder and also hardcore Microsoft Excel coder is a funny phrase to say, but I know exactly what you mean. Let me get to the rest of your question. I have built several vital pieces of software in VBA, Visual Basic for Applications, and Excel for my various jobs. I currently run it in Wine on Ubuntu at home. My workplace computers are mostly Windows-based. All right. Every time I tried an alternative office suite, I have found products that exceed my needs in terms of productivity and features, except for the spreadsheet apps. They totally suck. He puts it all in caps. I absolutely hate them and can't put out a fraction of the work that I can achieve in Microsoft Excel. Of course, they can do basic functions with not much hassle, but when it comes to the real cross calculations and lookup tables, I can't do it. I can code many languages. I even program microcontrollers on PLCs, but I can't for the life of me get LibreOffice Calc to behave. Please save my soul from Microsoft and its only software that is still great at this point, and give me a solution. Norman. Okay, Norman. First off, you asked the right person. I actually used to work on programmability for Microsoft Office at Microsoft. This is what I did for several years. You're screwed, buddy. You're totally right. Norman is absolutely right. So I don't touch Microsoft Office with a 10-foot pole anymore. I haven't in years. And literally, I worked on programmability for it. I worked on exactly the stuff he's talking about, and nothing touches Microsoft Excel in terms of being able to program a spreadsheet. It's just not doable on anything else. LibreOffice Calc is fantastic. I use it daily for keeping track of all sorts of things.
Right. Basic functions, yeah.
For what he's talking about, for the really intensive stuff, it doesn't hold a candle to Microsoft Excel. And that's you guys know me. There's no love. I'm not harboring any secret love here for Microsoft Excel. It's just the simple fact of the matter. Norman, you don't have another solution. It is to accomplish the things you're likely doing in Excel with VBA and lookup tables and everything else and pivots and everything. You're stuck there. That's all there is to it. The amount of work that would have to go into bringing LibreOffice Calc up to snuff of Excel in terms of programmability is absolutely ginormous. It is insane. The number of people that Microsoft have working on just that functionality alone is astronomical. Their teams are huge, and it is a complicated, beastly mess. But for people like you, it's absolutely required. So you're stuck using Wine. There's no way around it, buddy. You're screwed.
And if it's working, hey, that's fine. But perhaps most importantly, remember, Microsoft loves Linux. Office is on its way. Just hang on tight. Here soon, you're going to have Office on you. It's so going to happen.
Oh, don't say that when I'm trying to swallow liquid.
It's going to happen tomorrow. It's so going to happen. Yeah, you're screwed. You're going to use Wine.
You're going to use Wine. Oh, man.
Whining about Wine.
I pulled Pepsi down the wrong tube and up over the soft palate. That was a solid snort.
That was a good one, buddy. Nice burn in your nose.
Oh, yeah, I'm awake.
That'll clear that right up for you.
Holy free holies. Yeah, so sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Now, and the really hard part is there is never going to be a point where you're going to be able to get all of VBA ported over to LibreOffice Calc. It's just not going to happen.
It's not worth it. It's not going to happen. Short of getting another job or something. I mean, you're just that's where you're at. So
it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, man. I wish that it would. Now, it's entirely possible that at some point enough equivalent features will appear in LibreOffice Calc that you, in theory, could start from scratch and build similar functionality in those new spreadsheets. But bringing over existing Excel spreadsheets written within a ton of VBA is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thinking. Yeah, and I mean, Brian's got the technical side of it. I've got the half done, half minded, I'm lazy side of it down to a science. Use the tool that works for you, man. I mean, really, if Wine's working for you, hey, you're halfway there. You're using Linux. Be happy.
I see. I would tend to agree with Matt there. That's why Wine exists for the rare 1% of the time when you need something from another platform, and the fact that Wine is there makes this a much more flexible platform for us. And now this seems like it would be a golden opportunity to remind Microsoft how much they totally heart open source and want to probably port Excel to Linux and release it as open source because they heart it so much. Anyway, moving on. Kevin asks,
just drop it in a Wine container. I could see them doing that, or something. Totally something with Electron, maybe their web app.
Kevin asks, holy moly, we got a whole wall of text here, but it's a good one, so I'm going to read it. This plays into what this type of stuff Matt likes to talk about. Kevin says, I like that you went Patreon only and have upped my pledge since that announcement. Thank you, Kevin. I am fascinated by decentralized and volunteer funding. And to some extent, that leads me to my question today. You and Matt both being corporeally handsome and intellectually sharp men. I love the people that watch this show. They compliment our looks so much. Oh, where was I? I forgot. Advocate that free software authors charge more often for free software. Yeah, totally. As a Linux professional myself, I have strong preference for getting paid and concur.
Right? Who knew?
Yeah. Given that cryptocurrencies are so well funded and free software projects are doing themselves a disservice by not utilizing cryptocurrencies to fund their own development, as advocates and lovers of free software, should we be advocating for and adopting cryptocurrencies because they're so strongly rooted in the ideals of free software? He goes on with a specific example here. If KDN Live created Dencoin and exposed an option in the preference panel to, when idle, use 1% of GPU to help fund KDN Live, would you use it?
Ooh,
If Canonical offered
ooh.
this option as a replacement for their telemetry and advertising integrations, would this make you more or less likely than you are now to use a future Ubuntu release? Finally, how do you think our community would react to these kinds of changes if they became more common? So the idea of when your software is idle, optionally opt in to mining some sort of cryptocurrency on behalf of the projects that you're running.
The only way that I see the community adopting this is to literally make it ridiculously overdone to make it happen. You would literally have to say, okay, the package isn't even remotely on your system when you install Kdenlive. You have to go and install it.
Yeah.
And that would work, but it would not work if it was a checkbox, even off by default. People are going to get twitchy.
People are going to get twitchy.
They're not
people
that.
You're going to want to, you have to install a package. You have to
manually
sudo zipper in or apt install Kdenlive dash crypto miner or something like that.
Because that way people that are absolutely against it have they don't have on their system remotely there.
Right. The bits don't touch their drive, right?
Ever.
I agree. Now, but okay, so let's say they did that. Let's say Kdenlive, a video editing suite that both of us use and like. Let's say that they did that. Would you go apt install Kdenlive dash crypto miner fancy pants? Would you do that?
Because of who they are and what they do, yes. Would I do that with every single distro or or software provider?
After a while,
Probably
it
not.
starts to add up. Like after a while, your system's gonna be pretty bogged down.
It gets kind of, it's like, wow, I'm creaking along. Talk about the grindy sound on your hard drive, and I have an SSD, and I've got a grindy sound. What's up with that? So I don't know. That would be a little tough, and also the fact that you have to look at each individual organization or software and where your trust is with them. Do you feel comfortable in doing that in the first place? Kdenlive, sure, absolutely. Would I feel
Kdenlive, I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable with that. Yeah. I would feel comfortable with that. There's a couple of projects out there that I love enough that I would feel comfortable doing that sort of thing with. How about this? Let's look at it from a different perspective.
You could split the process, though. You could have one unified, agreeable protocol process that everybody agrees on and uses.
Yes, this is where I was thinking. Exactly. Yeah. What if there was an application you could get, a GUI or text mode or whatever application that was like, you go down the line and you check all of the projects that you want to be mining on behalf of, and each of them gets 1 to 2% of your CPU resources, which is a pittance.
You choose how much.
And you choose a little slider or whatnot, and you say, here, this percentage of my idle time, and you can set it to be like only do it between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. or what have you, and then automatically transfer those resulting coins of whatever the heck it's mining off to those projects' coins, and they're registered with some central thing.
And the transmission has to be done manually. There is no option for automatic because, again, these are the components that are going to make people trust folks. That I have to literally go out and seek this package. I have to install it. And to transmit said coin, I have to manually hit a button. There's nothing automatic. There's no trust there. There's no trust issue there at all. That, literally I'm choosing to do though. And I think that's important because people have been burned with a lot of crypto stuff already. So, folks are a little on the fence. You really got to earn that trust.
You really got to earn the trust.
Yeah. So,
but now in that case though, would you do that? If there was an application like that, would you do that?
I would, yes, with Kdenlive, I would do it, and probably a few others.
Yeah, a couple of them, right? Like there's a few projects that'd be like LibreOffice. If there was like a LibreOffice checkbox,
I'm my computer's
well, it costs you electricity. I mean, because it's still going to pull a little more juice.
Yeah. I got a Core Duo PF Sense box. I'm already killing that, so it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's not like it's a P4 or it's just like setting money on fire. But I'm probably $100 alone a month just in my office. It's fine.
It is fine. It's fine. It's fine. Would I do it? Yeah, I probably would. Maybe, not all the time. I would probably like to have a thing where I said, like for 2 hours in the middle of the night, mine for these 5 projects with this percentage set in a slider, and then I want it transferred over to them either manually or automatically, but mine for them. I get to choose, and no one installs it for me, and I might do that.
And an additional thing is, even if you remove it from the software, like a dependency of running Kden Live, and you just have that self-contained GUI thing you were talking about, maybe you have the command line version that also happens to run on something crappy like a Pi or something like that, to where it's not using, it doesn't have as many resources, but you don't mind running that Pi all the time. You're in full control. Yeah, it's a Pi. You're still manually downloading it. You're still manually sending the currency. You're in control, and you're not even thinking about it. Now that I would do all the time.
All right.
I don't care. I do that constantly. Doesn't bother me any. I got fast internet. Go for it.
Shoot, dog. I'll do that.
Sure.
Right. Honestly,
I run that all day.
Anything that helps get these projects more funding is a pretty good thing. I do agree. I like everything Matt said. I like that approach to it. I think it's a good idea. And honestly, would I be more likely to use Ubuntu if it had these features instead of like the telemetry stuff? Hell yes. Yeah. Without a doubt, without a second thought. Right. I mean, I'd rather it, again, like the telemetry stuff, not be on by default.
Or even installed by default. That's the key. That it doesn't even exist in your universe until you seek it out. Yeah.
Right. I have to specifically take some action to have it installed. Yep. I like that. I think that's a pretty good way to go.
That's a very important piece. That builds trust.
I like that a lot.
Me too.
David, this story hurts. David asks, is Copperhead OS dead? This was a shocker to me as I recently switched from iOS to a Nexus device so I could work on a fully dropping Google services, and this was my choice based on reviews and my own usage of Copperhead. So what is the best alternative now? I don't know. Have you seen what's happening here, Matt?
I have. I gleaned bits and pieces of it that it seems like that there's a difference of opinion between one of the important developers.
It's pretty big. So there's one main Copperhead OS developer. This is kind of how it goes. So for those of you who don't know, Copperhead OS is basically the open source bits of Android with a whole bunch of hardening done to it to make it really secure. It ships with nothing but free software stuff. So no Google Play Store, nothing googly, nothing that connects to Google services. I run Copperhead OS on this little Nexus 6P right here, and it works fantastically well. F-Droid for the software repository, lots of free software stuff on there. It's fantastic. However, there's one main developer at Copperhead Securities, the company in Canada that makes Copperhead OS, that's been building it. Something happened. They are not saying exactly what happened, but that developer was fired. Interestingly, that developer owns 50% of the company itself. But he's not like the board of directors kind of guy. He's just an engineer that owns half the company. He was kicked out of the company. The company demanded that he kind of relinquish everything and get rid of anything that would allow him to work on stuff for the company and whatnot. And so he complied by deleting the keys that would allow him or anyone else to ship updates to Copperhead OS. And so now Copperhead OS is dead. It is dead. There is someone could fork it, and then we could get new keys generated, and we could build an entirely new thing that is Copperhead that has new updates. However, if you have a current Copperhead installation, you will never get any more updates other than what is already out there. That is my understanding. Those keys, as far as I know, are gone. So that's a massive bummer. I was just talking to another buddy of mine that uses Copperhead OS, and he was saying he's one of those kinds of guys that just agonizes over his like technology decisions. Like before he buys a new phone, he frets over it for months. And so he landed on literally the same thing I've got, right? So he's got the nice Copperhead OS device. He loves it. It is a good setup. And so he stayed up all last night. He was just agonizing over it. He was like crying almost because of it. He just couldn't handle it. I felt for the poor guy. For what happens now with Copperhead is a complete unknown. I've reached out to both the developer who was kicked out of the company and the guy who did the kicking out. And I've been told by Copperhead, the company, that they would like to get back to me once it is cleared by legal.
That's smart.
As of right now, though, no one's saying anything to me specifically. Over on the Copperhead OS Reddit, you can find lots of discussion going on. People are freaking out. And the developer that got kicked out has posted many, many comments over there if you want to just watch the drama unfold. However, there's really nothing productive me, you, or Matt, or anyone else can do, because if everything that I've heard is true, the keys are gone, no updates can occur. There's no amount of help we can give, work, monetary, anything that would make that happen. So we're going to watch this. I was hoping to have something to report on this by today, but they haven't cleared it by legal, so I guess they don't have anything to say.
That's kind of huge. It's like it's perfectly okay to not be able to discuss it, but to acknowledge that, hey, we're not ignoring you. We do want to talk to you, but we got to make sure we're on the up and up first, and that's reasonable.
I think so too. I agree. And I want to be very clear. I do not know exactly what went down. I don't know the reason why the developer was fired or let go, or however they want to phrase it. Maybe it's legit, maybe it's not. I super don't know. I'm totally not going to take sides, other than I'm a little bummed out that I'm not going to have Copperhead OS going forward. So what's the best alternative now? So if we're talking about having a free software-ish system, we've got alternatives coming from Purism with the Librem 5, and then we get a real Linux phone, but it's not out yet. So if you need a solution today, you're going with one of the various Android-based ROMs that are out there that remove all of the googly bits. You're not going to get a lot of the security hardening that you got with Copperhead OS, at least not for the most part. But at least you can go Google free that way. Check the XDA developer forums, XDA forums, for more information on which ROMs are available for whatever piece of hardware you already have. If you have like one of the Nexus devices or one of the Galaxy S series, you're going to be a little better supported than most, because those are more popular. So there are more ROMs available for those. But that's the way to go. I wish I had really good news for you. It's either that or you go old, and you go back in time and you get like a Nokia N900 phone, or you know what I mean? Or you can go with like a Sailfish device, but even that is partially closed source. It's not all open, but it is more Linux. So that's something, and it's not googly. There's some
tutorials on how to build a phone out of a pie. There you go.
And in fact, so there's someone that is using a Pi Zero to create a kind of not like a feature phone, the equivalent of a feature phone with a little black and white LCD. And they've been talking to me about actually getting me one to review. Here's my recommendation. For right now, Copperhead has had security updates not too far in the past, so we're pretty safe using it for the moment. My hope is that I can use Copperhead until the Librem 5 phone ships from Purism, and then we have a real Linux phone that we can move to. Anything else is going to be a stopgap measure in the meantime, and none of them are ideal. They're just no ideal solutions. Man, that is like the whole theme of this week's show is you're screwed, there's not a good solution. But in reality, it's true. Just, right? Wait, hold on to your Copperhead phone. At least look at it this way. If you're using F-Droid on that Copperhead OS device, you're still going to get updates to all the apps, because F-Droid is totally detached and has nothing to do with Copperhead itself. So at least you got that. It's not much, but take some solace where you can get it. All right. Timo asks, "Hey, Matt and Brian, ! Have you tried Enlightenment Desktop? I know you think of KDE being too bloated. I myself like Enlightenment for its choice and dislike GNOME for forcing its choices upon its users. What are your thoughts on Enlightenment?"
I can honestly say I've not in a long time. I've played with it before, and I thought it was interesting. I didn't have a compelling reason to like switch to it specifically, but it did seem interesting. I didn't hate it, which is really a big thing for me. If I don't hate it, that's like love right there, man.
This is what I'm saying, man. If you don't hate something, it's awesome. You're right. You run hot and cold, and you love it or hate it.
I really do. So angry.
I think Enlightenment's way cool. It's buggy.
It is buggy, but it's cool. It is cool.
how do I put this? It's super fast, which I love. It's wicked cool looking, which I love. It's super themable and customizable, extra brownie points, and it has a real 1990s hacker feel to it. Like it's
right.
All of the standard themes and skins and whatnot for Enlightenment just really smack of you. Angelina Jolie would be running this on her laptop.
Hack the planet as you're doing.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's got that style to it. And I love that. That's fantastic. It's got that cool vibe and I dig it. And it's fast and I love it. It's great. I was running Enlightenment on an old netbook I used to have for a long time because it's so light on the system resources. Yes. I never remember measuring it. But I think I did measure it in one of my old Network World articles. I think I actually measured the memory usage of Enlightenment as compared to Mate and a couple others. And I want to say it was either favorable or really, really lighter than even some of the lightweight desktops. It is phenomenal in that regard, but it is a little buggy. Every version of Enlightenment I've ever tried has had significant user experience bugs. Nothing that made it so I couldn't use the system, but just weird little visual glitches that would occur from time to time, which adds to that I'm Angelina Jolie motif, you know? So it's cool, yes. but I don't use it specifically because like on my production machine, it doesn't make sense because I need something a little bit more never glitchy. And then on my laptop, I don't use it because I don't use it anywhere else.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, this is a really neat, it's kind of like playing with
really cool.
Those little sticky octopuses you'd throw against the wall.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like having some of those. Those are really awesome, but I'm not necessarily going to make that part of my day-to-day life. That made no sense at all, but it made sense in my brain at the time. So
it totally made sense.
But it's not really useful for my needs. There we go. That's better.
So Timo, it's like those sticky window octopuses. There you go. Really you're welcome.
Stick them in the face. I don't know.
Did they make that noise in your head when you threw the octopuses at the window?
I'm just ridiculous today.
Dax asks, we heard that Google was also looking to acquire GitHub. I heard this too. I don't know how much truth there is to this, but I heard this also. But was outbid by Microsoft. How would the reaction have differed if Google had acquired GitHub instead of Microsoft? Which outcome would you prefer? Okay, so to be clear, I do not have actual confirmation that this happened. I have heard from many people now that it was on the table. I have no confirmation from Microsoft, GitHub, or Google that any of that's real. So I cannot say one way or the other. However, Matt, hypothetically, Google bought GitHub.
Boy,
what do you think?
That's a tough one. I think the real trick here is that Google does tend to get more of a pass when it comes to these types of things. And a lot of that's because of their sponsoring of open source projects and that sort of thing. So they are almost in the fact that they've been known to use Linux on their desktops at their workplace. Once Ubuntu, now it's like a Debian base instead. So you have that factor to it. And so I think they end up with a kind of a pass there a little bit. And that is a problem. That being said, there's some stigma, but nowhere near what Microsoft saw. Not even close.
Yeah, I mean, I think the community reaction would have, as Matt's right, would have been much better. I don't know that my reaction would have changed all that much.
No.
But I think the community reaction would have been much kinder and gentler. I think far less people would have jumped ship from GitHub had they done that.
Exactly.
I don't know if it would have been a better move or a worse move in the long run for them. Google also has a track record of killing projects. They experiment, which I give them kudos for, right? They experiment like Wave and their Google RSS reader and their 47 different chat applications that they create every third Wednesday. But they kill them off pretty rapidly. And so if I saw Google acquiring GitHub, I would assume that give it 3 years and GitHub will be closed, because that's the track record of Google. And that's not me saying that Google's bad. It's just the track record. It's sort of like when I see Ubuntu ship a new thing, a new project. Well, it's only going to last for 3 years because that's about how long most of their projects tend to last. It's about 3 years. Microsoft has a much better track record of keeping around projects that probably should have died. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, yes,
yeah. You know, like for example,
good point.
Internet Information Server, IIS, their web server, well, plus a million other things. I worked on a variation of that back in the late 90s. It should have been killed in the late 90s. Microsoft should have probably just made a cool administrative suite that administered Apache or something else, and that would have been a better use of their resources, in my opinion. But they kept at it, and here we still got it.
Surprise!
Right. And so I think Microsoft having it means there's a better chance of it existing long term. On the flip side, Google probably has a little better street cred when it comes to open source.
They do.
So
whether
the
or not
odds
that's
of
fair is whatever. But,
right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't. Either way, I'm already in the process of moving my stuff off of GitHub, in part because GitHub's then owned by someone else that has other motivations, whether or not I like that company, right? Whether it's GitHub being owned by Apple, Google, Microsoft, Motorola, IBM, Xerox, it doesn't really matter. They're now owned by someone else instead of just being the standalone company that does this. Now they have other things that might motivate their future actions. And I'm like, well, that's not really where I want my code hosted then. And so I'm moving stuff to be self-hosted for that very reason. But so I don't know that it would have made much of a difference to me.
Got a point.
Yeah,
got a point.
I sure do.
It's tough though. It is tough. You try and not be biased, but you know. Yeah.
But we are.
We really
Peanut
are.
Butter 40. Peanut Butter 144. Great name. I assume that's his given name from his mom. I assume when the birth certificate was written, his last name was Smith. And you know, I want to name my kid Peanut Butter 144. No, the mom was like, I want to name my kid Peanut Butter. And the nurse was like, sorry, ma'am. Peanut Butter's already taken. Well, Peanut Butter 2 then. No, that one's taken also. Well, then I'll go with the date. Peanut Butter May 1st, 1984. Nope, that's taken too. 144 was available. Asks, what would you do if Google had a massive data breach and information on all the people with Google accounts was made public? What do you think other people would do? Would this be enough to get people to stop using Google, or would something even worse have to happen? I find this question fascinating.
Wow, that's a good one.
So what is the point at which something so bad has happened that we would stop using, that people in mass, the public, not just you and me and like the hyper security nerds, but the public would go, forget that. I'm closing all my Google accounts. I'm out. Like, what would it have to be? Would that be enough?
Oh boy, you know, I think it'll come down to geek versus general public, just like we see with everything. Yeah. And I think for geeks, potentially you could see more of a kind of a GitHub like exodus, probably not as en masse. I think you would definitely see some fluctuation there. As far as the general public, now they're all morons. They're going to do what they always do. You know, oh, I got hacked. Well, it's yesterday's problem. They just don't care. They really are. People are by and large not very smart.
Well, so what if they got to hide anyway, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, seriously. Oh, you got those arguments, but most people are like, effort. No, I don't really want to do stuff and say things, and so that sounds hard. And so you end up with that type of mentality. And I think that's true. And even some geeks. I'm one of those geeks. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna do email service. I'll look through my drafts and I'll be like, I don't care. I'm just going to change my password. I'm using two-step. I don't, whatever. It's fine. Whatever, you know. So, yeah.
So what would it be for you then? Well, I mean, for Matt Hartley, uber nerd. I mean, you are a very nerdy dude. Yeah, I really am. So if you don't close your account from that, what makes you does Google literally have to sell your account to a hitman who is going to try to murder you? I mean, at that point, you might as well keep your account because
with cryptocurrency. I mean, like every time he shoots a bullet off, I get a kickback. I mean, we don't know. No, I mean,
the more you dodge it, the more you make.
Right? Seriously, yeah. If you get
Running Man-ish, I love it.
That would be a trip. I think for me personally, I would have to not only be unable to recover data, but potentially also not be able to get in as well. I think not being able to recover my data or having genuine data loss would be enough to push me out.
But what if all your data is released publicly?
Man, they're in some really boring reading because I don't put anything interesting online. I really don't.
I know.
I
You're
don't
like
put anything interesting on my computer. So and because I don't trust any of it. I think everyone's out to get me. I'm super paranoid. So yeah, I would be very displeased. I might switch just because I am irritated at that prospect. I probably would, because I'd be like,
I know, right?
It's going to be like a Jack in the Box thing to where they get some terrible bathroom based disease and become like the healthiest place in the world as far as washing their hands, or like it's become one of those.
They're like Chipotle, like, okay,
right.
people are dying. I guess now we're going to be the cleanest restaurant in the world,
right? It's like surgical hands as they come in to make your food. Right. Yeah.
Forgot about Jack in the
it could
Box.
go either way. I don't know. I would probably have to experience it to have an intelligent answer to that. I would like to think that I would switch, but I'm so lazy.
God,
I have so much stuff in Gmail and none of it's useful. It's all crap. I use it for like my grocery lists and stuff. It's just garbage, but I don't want to bother exporting that. It's just like,
that is a lot of work.
It's just a lot of work doing stuff. And I'm not a doing stuff kind of guy.
Well, peanut butter, I think that kind of answers your question. Yeah. I don't think there's anything that's so bad that you could get people to switch at this point. I mean, look what happened to Facebook. Bad stuff happened. Did people leave? Oh, like a little. like a little bit.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them came back.
Very little. Very little.
But yeah, people don't care. It just doesn't seem to matter to most people. And that sucks. It sucks that it doesn't seem to matter to most people, but it's just true. It's true. Even the people that realize it's problematic are like, well, gosh, that's going to take like a couple hours this afternoon. I could do that. Or I could make a couple of freezer pizzas, kick back and watch Thor Ragnarok. I mean,
seriously,
there's options, and what are you going to do?
Because Thor wouldn't let you down. Thor would not have your data exploited in the first place. He would smash it with your hammer or his hammer, hammer.
You know what? Iron Man would totally exploit it, though. That's
right.
I'm just saying. He'd have all these good intentions.
A crypto miner. I mean, he's literally like that's how Tony Stark got so rich.
Maybe it's how the real world vision becomes created. It's all from exported Google data. It suddenly gets its own consciousness.
I'm just saying, I would totally rock a Jarvis. I would be okay with that.
You would. Yeah, you would. I would rock a Jarvis if I self-hosted it on my Nextcloud server. That better be like Nextcloud X is Nextcloud Jarvis edition.
Tony's not only self-hosting it, but he also wrote the creepy thing. So it may be proprietary, but he knows the code.
But he knows it, right? That's a good point.
Yeah.
I feel like at one point in this conversation, we might have answered your question, Peanut Butter.
Probably. I don't know.
Keith asks, oh man, we're going to get through all the questions I grabbed today. We got two more. Keith asks, Microsoft creates a framework. This is a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
Similar to GTK or Qt, as well as its own integrated development environment for Linux, which must be used to program for said framework. It is not open source, strictly a binary, but starts getting included with most distros, much like systemd. Your favorite piece of Linux software now only runs and gets updates on this framework. Let's say it's Kdenlive, Live, LibreOffice, and OBS, and a few other things that we use. They all are now reliant on this binary Microsoft framework. What do you do?
First thing I do is I check and make sure that it doesn't have timers, because timers are the devil.
No systemd timers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Otherwise it's fine.
No, like special, which has nothing to do with the question, but I thought it'd be funny to throw that in there. I honestly think that I would begrudgingly complain about it, much like I do systemd, and continue using it. That's probably what's going to happen. Yeah. I could see myself, that's stupid as I'm using it, and fine with it. I don't like the idea at all. I would definitely not be a fan, but I don't think it's going to cause me to change my behavior, unfortunately.
It would cause me to change my behavior. And you know what it would get me to do? Never upgrade. That's what it would get me to do. Because right now, I'm producing a show entirely on Linux with free software. Do I need any more features? No, I don't. I don't need any more features. In fact, half the time when I update my software, it suddenly stops being able to grab window contents and composite it into video and whatnot. And so I'll just stop upgrading. I'll just lock everything down, make exact mirrors of my drive so I can always return to my current state, and I'll just never upgrade again. I'm just done. I'm just completely done until 12 years down the line when something new that I can totally get behind is fine. I have no issue with that. People, if we've got computers that are doing the job, why upgrade? So what could Microsoft possibly add that could get me to upgrade? It would have to be fundamentally new and totally exciting features that would literally allow me to do things I could not currently do, and then I might think about it, or at least be bummed out that I'm not allowing myself to upgrade.
I mean, that is a fair point. I'm more of I'm an LTS guy, so I do tend to hang on to my software for a while.
Why not? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Even looking at web browsers, I've got app images of old Netscape versions of Mosaic and everything. I loaded up an old version of Netscape. That sucker flies. I love web browsing in old like Netscape Navigator 4 and Communicator whatnot.x. It's awesome.
Little like shower going off in the corner.
It's fantastic. Yes, that little N with the thingy. Oh, heavens to Betsy, Murgatroyd even. I'm loving that. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but thank you. I like to go. Did you realize that they brought back Wacky Racers?
What?
Yeah, Wacky Races is back. It's on Cartoon Network or something like that. It's got Muttley and everybody. It's
brought back
insane.
Laugh Olympics. I'd be all right with that potentially.
I would love Laugh Olympics. So there you go, Keith. Yeah. That's the answer to your question. We love Laugh Olympics. Last question. This is from Joseph. Hello there, Brian, and most likely Matt. How do you guys handle your music collection with free and open source software? Ideally, I would like to own all the music I listen to on Spotify, but it would be massively expensive to buy all the music I have on Spotify or take forever to slowly purchase it all. I would love to be able to listen to my massive library using open source software, but I have yet to find a feasible way.
Boy, let's see. If they had a Netflix, that's an evil suggestion. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's how I do it, and this is not going to solve your problem. I used to use audio streaming services like Google Play Music back when I was still using a lot of Google stuff. That honestly was a good service. I actually was a Microsoft Zune Music Pass, whatever it was called, user for a little while. This was a long time ago. That was kind of interesting. Amazon had something similar. I assume it still does. I've given up on all that because it drove me nuts that when I was offline, I didn't have access to it. And then it drove me nuts that some of the services I was using started getting shut down, or like on Google Play Music, some of the music that was on there that I was listening to that was in my totally awesome, perfectly curated playlist disappeared because they no longer had the rights to it. I'm like, forget that. So I only have music that I keep, and I rip music from my CDs, from vinyl, no joke. That's how I roll, baby. And I keep it synced up to just my little personal Nextcloud account, and then I listen to it on all my devices, including like my pocket chips and my phones and my little PDAs and my Noodle Pie and my desktops and everything. And I play all my music in the terminal with CMUS, CMUS, command line based MP3 player. It is glorious. Plays OGS and everything else too, but pretty much everything I have is MP3s because I want it to be compatible with all different kinds of software. And MP3s, just so you guys know, MP3s does not have the stigma it used to have. The patents are open now. This happened not too long ago, so you guys can use MP3s without fancy codec licensing, not worrying about patents. It's all Free Software Foundation approved, baby.
Exactly. It's not Fluendo paying the fees anymore for people. Yes.
Bingo. So that's how I do it. I don't have a good solution for you otherwise.
The appropriate way to do it, both in terms of audible quality as also perhaps not being skeevy about it, would be like CDs and then ripping them, or perhaps maybe that type of thing.
Yeah.
One approach that I'm not going to detail, but I will be very general in, is I have heard of people taking YouTube playlists that they've built themselves, and running it through a certain command line application and ending up with music for some reason. It's weird. That's been done as well. But as far as the proper way
the Linux show does not condone this course of action.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I got that in there. We're good. We're legally covered now, man.
Yeah, we're legally covered. Well, and it's also incredibly vague. But I mean, ideally, and you really can, if you're connected online.
There are command line Spotify clients.
Yeah, you can use YouTube as like a Spotify, a legally legit Spotify type of thing. Just playlist it if you want. You can legit do that. There's even apps that legitimately do that too. So you can do that if you want to be online.
There are command line Spotify applications, and there's also terminal-based applications for Google Play Music as well. And there's a couple of them that are out there, and I have tested some of them out, and I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but they do function well enough. It's just not how I like dealing with my music, so I don't. But that's not to say that that's bad. I mean, there's really some benefits to those streaming services. Again, you're right. I do not have in my personal collection anywhere near the flexibility of finding a tune as I would if I was using Spotify or Google Play Music or something like that. And I kind of miss having that sometimes. It's just it frustrated me so much, so I just stopped.
Yeah. There is one app that I'm going to be reviewing here that I found that's actually still supported, because this is unusual for Google Play Music. Usually they're dead projects on GitHub. This one's still active, and it has a really nice webpage. And
What's it called?
I'm going to spell it out. Tizonia. Tizona, perhaps?
Okay, I haven't tried that one.
It is Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, again, which is a legitimate free approach because you're not downloading it, you're simply streaming it. Yep. Chromecast and whatnot. So you can go that route. Very, very nice thing.
Yeah.
Google that really pretty webpage. It is, they screen right out of the cloud. Cloud music for the Linux terminal, which is like, hey, that's what I want. Cool.
Hope that helped you, Joseph. Probably not, but what can you do?
Gave you some ideas.
All right. This episode of the Lunduke Show is brought to you in part by Pogo Linux, who makes servers shipping with Linux. You can tell that because they got Linux right there in the domain name. It's fantastic. It's at pogolinux.com, as well as Lullsby. I don't know why that voice slipped in there. Who make 3D printers that you cannot see because they are off screen right now. But I got one right there, and I got one over there, and they're absolutely fantastic. And a little birdie tells me that they've got a new printer coming out, the Lullsbot Mini 2, next week. I think it's next week. I think it's just a couple of days away. Anyway, go check them out over at lullsbot.com. And if you want to get your questions in this show, there's two ways to do it. One, email me with the subject line Linux Thursday. The second is become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/Brian Lunduke. Wait a minute. If you're watching this, you probably already are. And then I ask every week, and you can just put your questions there in the comment line. Also, if you're already on the Patreon, maybe consider tossing Matt a couple of bucks. He's over at patreon.com/freedompenguin, which are two of my favoriteest words smashed together representing Matt Hartley. It's absolutely fantastic. And you do that and you get also, like, what do they get? What do they get if they're over on Matt Hartley?
You get some tutorials that I put together. Also, you are going to be on the inside track to my upcoming live stream. So while it's available to everybody, that's great. But as far as the direction of it, you got to be a Patreon to actually participate in that. And there's been a lot of discussion going on. It looks like it's probably going to happen this weekend. So
I love that. And a big thanks. I got the show name wrong in the credits, but it's all in the right spot this week. Huzzah!
That's part of the running gag, though. That's okay.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this show possible. You guys, you realize there's over 1,024 of you right now. That's right. We have a full K of Patreon supporters that are making this show possible now, and it's still growing. You guys are awesome.
Woo-hoo.
Everyone's awesome. Matt Hartley is awesome. Awesome is awesome. That's all I got for today. Everybody, go forth. Have a fantastic day. And we'll see you back on this show next week. And I think I've got another show coming out tomorrow, but I don't remember because I'm excited. Go drink your giant mug, Matt Hartley. I love you very much.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Let's end this show with love.
So much love.